One more note on the comparison of these pairs. We may gather from the writings of Cicero and of this Pliny, who in my opinion bears little resemblance in temperament to his uncle, numberless proofs of their immeasurably ambitious nature, among others that they openly solicit the historians of their time not to forget them in their annals, and fortune, as if in spite, has made the vanity of these requests endure to our day, long after the annals in question drop from sight. But this surpasses all baseness of heart in persons of such rank, to have wanted to derive some great glory from mere babble and talk, to the point of publishing their private letters written to their friends, and even though some of these failed to be sent, they were published nonetheless, with this worthy excuse that the writers did not want to lose their labor and their vigils. Is it not a fine thing for two Roman consuls, sovereign magistrates of the Republic, that was empress of the world, to employ their leisure in arranging and dressing up a pretty missive in order to gain a reputation for a good knowledge of the language of their nurse? What worse would a simple schoolmaster do who gained his living by it? If the deeds of Xenophon and Caesar had not far surpassed their eloquence, I do not believe they would have written them down. They sought to recommend not their sayings, but their doings. And if the perfection of fine speaking could bring any glory suitable to a great personage, certainly Scipio and Laelius would not have resigned the credit for their comedies and all the elegance and charms of their Latin to the African slave, for that the work is theirs, its beauty and excellence sufficiently demonstrates, and Terence himself admits it. I would be unhappy to be dislodged from this belief. It is a kind of mockery and insult to praise a man's worth for qualities unbecoming his rank, though they be otherwise laudable, and for qualities also which ought not to be his principal ones, as if you praised a king for being a good painter, or a good architect, or else a good shot with a harquebus, or a good tilter at the ring. These praises do not honor unless they are presented in mass, and after those that befit him, to wit, justice and the science of leading his people in peace and war. In this way, agriculture does honor to Cyrus, and to Charlemagne, eloquence and the knowledge of good letters. To put this in stronger terms, I have known in my time distinguished men who derive their titles and calling from writing, to disown their apprenticeship, to corrupt their style, and to affect ignorance of so commonplace a faculty, which our people believe is scarcely ever to be found among the learned, and seek to recommend themselves by better qualities. The companions of Demosthenes in the embassy to Philip praised that prince as being handsome, eloquent, and a good drinker. Demosthenes said that those were praises more appropriate to a woman, a lawyer, and a sponge than to a king. Let him show mastery over a fighting foe and clemency when he has brought him low. It is not his profession to be either a good hunter or a good dancer. Others will plead cases, measure the sky with bars. Others will tell us of the gleaming stars. Let him know only how to rule his empire. Plutarch says further that to appear so excellent in these less necessary qualities is to testify that one has misspent one's leisure in study. We should have been employed in more necessary and useful things, so that King Philip of Macedon, after hearing the great Alexander, his son, sing at a feast in an attempt to vie with the best musicians, said to him, "Aren't you ashamed to sing so well?" And to this same Philip, the musician, with whom he was arguing about his art, said, "God forbid, sire, that you should ever have the misfortune to understand these things better than I." A king should be able to reply, as Iphicrates replied, to the orator who is assailing him in the invective with these questions. "Well, what are you, to play so brave? Are you a man at arms? Are you an archer? Are you a pikesman?" I am none of these, but I am the man who knows how to command them all. Antisthenes took it as evidence of the little worth of Ismenias when he was praised for being an excellent flute player. I know well that when I hear someone dwell on the language of these essays, I would rather he said nothing. This is not so much to extol the style as to deprecate the sense, the more galling for being more oblique. Yet I am much mistaken if many other writers offer more to take hold of in their material than I do. And whether for better or for worse, If any writer has sown his materials more substantially, or at least more thickly, on his paper, in order to get more in, I pile up only the headings of subjects. Were I to add on their consequences, I would multiply this volume many times over. And how many stories have I spread around which say nothing of themselves, but from which anyone who troubles to pluck them with a little ingenuity will produce numberless essays. Neither these stories nor my quotations serve always simply for example, authority, or ornament. I do not esteem them solely for the use I derive from them. They often bear, outside of my subject, the seeds of a richer and bolder material, and sound obliquely a subtler note, both for myself, who do not wish to express anything more, and for those who get my drift. Coming back to the subject of wordy prowess, I find no great choice between knowing how to speak only badly and knowing only how to speak well. Elegance of style is not a manly ornament. The sages say that as regards knowledge, only philosophy, and as regards actions, only virtue, are generally suited to all ranks and all classes. There is something similar in those two other philosophers, Epicurus and Seneca, for they also promise eternity to the letters they write to their friends, but in a different fashion. They accommodate themselves for a good end to the vanity of others, for they write their friends that if the concern with making themselves known to the ages to come and with renown keeps them at the management of affairs and makes them fear the solitude and retirement to which these two philosophers want to call them, they should give themselves no more trouble. Inasmuch as Epicurus and Seneca have enough credit with posterity to guarantee them that, by virtues of these letters alone, they will become as well known and famous as their own public actions could make them. Moreover, these are not mere empty and fleshless letters, holding together only by a delicate choice of words piled up and arranged in precise cadence, but letters stuffed full of the fine arguments of wisdom, by which a man becomes not more eloquent, but wiser. Letters that teach us not to speak well, but to do well. Fire on the eloquence that leaves us craving itself, not things. Unless we say that Cicero's, being of such extreme perfection, gives itself body and substance. I shall add one more story that we read about Cicero in this connection, to make us put our finger on his nature. He had to make an oration in public, and was a little pressed for time to prepare himself at leisure. Eros, one of his slaves, came and notified him that the meeting was postponed until the next day. He was so delighted that he gave him his freedom for the good news. On the subject of letter writing, I want to say this, that it is a kind of work in which my friends think I have some ability, and I would have preferred to adopt this form to publish my sallies, if I had had someone to talk to. I needed what I once had, a certain relationship to lead me on, sustain me, and raise me up. For to talk to the winds, as others do, is beyond me, except in dreams. Nor could I fabricate fictitious names to talk with on a serious matter, being a sworn enemy of any falsification. I would have been more attentive and confident with a strong friend to address than I am now when I consider the various tastes of a whole public. And if I am not mistaken, I would have been more successful. I have naturally a humorous and familiar style, but of a form all my own, inept for public negotiations, as my language is, in every way, being too compact, disorderly, abrupt, individual, and I have no gift for letters of ceremony that have no other substance than a fine string of courteous words. I have neither the facility nor the taste for those lengthy offers of affection and service. I do not really believe all that. I dislike saying much of anything beyond what I believe. That is a far cry from present practice, for there never was so abject and servile a prostitution of complimentary addresses. Life, soul, devotion, adoration, serf, slave, all these words have such vulgar currency that when letter writers want to convey a more sincere and respectful feeling, they have no way left to express it. I mortally hate to seem a flatterer, and so I naturally drop into a dry, plain, blunt way of speaking, which to anyone who does not know me otherwise verges a little on the disdainful. I honor most those to whom I show the least honor, and where my soul moves with great alacrity, I forget the proper steps of ceremony. I offer myself meagerly and proudly to those to whom I belong, and I tender myself least to those to whom I have given myself most. It seems to me that they should read my feelings in my heart and see that what my words express does an injustice to my thought. In welcoming and taking leave, in thanking and greeting and offering my services, and all these verbose compliments imposed by the ceremonial laws of our etiquette, I know no one so stupidly barren of words as myself, and I have never been made use of to write letters of favor and recommendation, but that the man for whom they were written found them dry and weak. The Italians are great printers of letters. I think I have 100 different volumes of them. Those of Annibale Caro seem to me the best. If all the paper at once bedaubed for the ladies, when my hand was really carried away by my passion, were now in existence, there might perhaps be found some page worthy to be communicated to our idle youth that is infatuated with this mania. I always write my letters post haste, and so precipitously that although my handwriting is intolerably bad, I prefer to write with my own hand rather than employ another, for I find no one who can follow me, and I never have them copied. I have accustomed high personages who know me to put up with scratchings and crossings out in a paper without fold or margin. The letters that cost me most are those that are worth the least. As soon as I begin to drag them out, it is a sign that I am not there. I am prone to begin without a plan. The first remark brings on the second. The letters of this age consist more in embroideries and preambles than in substance, just as I would rather compose 2 letters than close and fold one, and always resign that job to someone else. So, when the substance is finished, I would gladly give someone else the charge of adding those long harangues, offers, and prayers that we place at the end, and I wish some new custom would relieve us of it, as well as that of stringing out a whole series of qualities and titles in the address. In order not to stumble in these, I have many times refrained from writing, especially to jurists and financiers. There are so many new offices, such a difficult distribution and arrangement of various titles of honor, which, being so dearly bought, cannot be exchanged or forgotten without offense. I also consider it in bad taste to load with these the frontispiece and the title page of the books we print.